All right, and we are back for Life Lessons Part 2, featuring Mark Manson here at the It Be What It Be podcast. So, going to jump straight into it. Last week, there certainly was the Part 1 that was happening, and that can be found just right over on the channel and in the live panel for sure. As you can see, there is the part 2, but then there's also the part 1. And just to even show a little bit of the part 1, Mark Manson, someone who I actually talk about, that would have gone as far as, towards the end, I was just showing a bit of his channel, but would have gone as far as number 20, because there was 40 of them. Important to have. But we're halfway through, so I do think that I'm actually going to stop it there. Definitely want to. I think that there's a lot of different ways. Yeah, I want to see if I can at least get to the exact one. I think that there are the computers certain point in their life, really definition, and they're no longer here, and that does embody the growth. And what I mean by that is that
loves your old identity.
There we go.
Growth is rarely accompanied by joy and celebration. On the contrary,
growth is rarely accompanied by joy and celebration. So, with that being said, I actually do have the video over there. Now I know where we left off. So now
I never wanted to be that boss, the one constantly checking in, reminding people what to do next. But with our
now I have an advertisement going on, so I'll just use that as an opportunity. I don't have the YouTube Premium, so I do have it on my personal account, but I don't have it here on this YouTube channel. That would be certainly an expense that I'd be willing to have and be willing to take on, but that's just not necessarily a luxury that I have at the moment. Continuing to work on the YouTube channel, and we'll see how that turns out. But that being said, I have managed to find where it is that we are, and the video is playing yet again. I'm going to let that one play out, but yes, like I said, I do have the part 1 on the channel, so certainly I encourage you to take a look at that. And then I am going to be, as soon as he gets on to the 21st one, and I think that there was just a skip on that. But yes, okay. Here we go yet again, and unmute, and let's do the second half of these life lessons.
Loss of your old values, your old behaviors, your old loves, your old identity. Change always has a component of grief to it, so be sure to let yourself grieve. Number 21. Statistically speaking, a normal person is physically unhealthy, emotionally anxious and depressed, socially lonely, and financially in debt.
Yes.
Unhealthy, emotionally anxious and depressed, socially lonely, and financially in debt.
Yeah, so a normal person statistically, given all of those different factors, and just going to be trying to manage the copyright as I do, right? And just usually just trying to make sure that with what it is that I am live streaming, that I'm also adding in my own commentary, and absolutely being normal, doing what most people do is not being exceptional by definition, which I also just think that it is very unfortunate that some of what could be considered exceptional can also be considered to be weird, for example, or is because of its lack thereof popularity, then it cannot be valued despite its quality. And even in to a large degree, I have ran into some videos or concepts that have talked about how some people showcasing their superiority can really result in exposing insecurities in other people. And what I mean by that is that, so if someone was to show that they were particularly emotionally mature and they just don't have an emotional outburst, or they're not reactive. I even just did my most recent short on this, right? My most recent short on this, which is talking about how the weird ways that people show that they don't like you, and that essentially some of the ways that they may do that is by being very passive aggressive, or doing passive compliments, or trying to underline and put a magnifying glass on all of your mistakes. And it can be really easy to identify that on the basis of tone and timing, essentially, to be able to work out as soon as you make a mistake, they're ready to jump on it because they want to try to undermine you at every single opportunity. And that even they may want to disagree with you as much as possible, essentially. And they're applying a very interrogative, to interrogate. So an interrogative style of listening, where they're really trying to listen for any like inconsistencies as much as possible because of their lack there in respect of you, because of the extent to which they dislike you. And so as a byproduct of that, then that is arguably normal. Like, it's normal to be able to have those emotional outbursts and to not have your emotions in check. Funnily enough, Mark Manson has an episode on Solved on emotional regulation. I haven't watched that fully, only about an hour of it, so at this rate. But nonetheless, what it is, my point is that, so if someone else is able to display composure, then that can expose the inadequacy in the other person. And then and even Mark Manson does this to an extent as well. One of the parts that I actually really don't like about his takes is that I do think that he is a Homo sapien apologist. And what I mean by that is that it's essentially, if a particular behavior is common enough amongst a species, if it's species wide, then, oh, don't worry about that. That's just what it means to be effing human. I just really hate the "it's normal" excuse and argument, because it's as if it's dismissing someone's ability to be better, essentially. So, as I was saying, then there's all of these different categories, and as he's about to say,
debt. Fuck being normal. Number 22, if you can't say no, then your yeses mean nothing. We are defined by what we give up, what we sacrifice, and what we reject. If you sacrifice nothing and reject nothing, then you have no identity. You are merely a reflection of the preferences and demands of the people around you. In other words, if you don't decide who you are, other people will decide for you. Number 23.
Yeah, I think that that's actually extremely helpful, and certainly, absolutely, having a strong internal locus of control. Because if you don't have a strong internal locus of control, then you will not necessarily have a strong identity or enough autonomy to decide your own identity and who it is that you are. And certainly there's the courage to be disliked. I know that Mark Manson talks a lot about how if one is so worried about being disliked by other people, then they'll be trapped in the prison of other people's opinions. Now, I certainly agree with that, but I also do believe that we are in the prison of other people's opinions, because that is reputation. In which case, I do not intellectually care what other people think, but I do care about what it is that they do with what it is that they think. Hence, we wearing this mask, so that then I'm able to protect my identity, so that then I don't suffer social consequences. Because say I go and apply for a job, and oh, look at what this dude said online. Can you believe that he said this? Now the employer's offended or what have you. I try to walk into a random restaurant, a random bar, or what have you. Oh, look at him. It's this guy. It's this guy. Now we just don't like you. And I don't even know what the beef is about. So I do think I like Robert Greene's rule, one of the laws of power. I don't specifically remember which one it is, but think for yourself, but act like others. I really like that in any case. Just because there's just how punishing it can be to be contrarian to society, one really ought to have FU money in order to be able to be more of oneself while being in society. But anyways.
Be careful how you define yourself. Your identity is a self-constructed mental prison, confining you to a life of desperately seeking and finding things to validate whatever you've chosen to become. Define yourself as loosely and ambiguously as possible. You will feel less defensive towards the world and be willing to change when it's necessary. Number 24.
I totally agree. Absolutely. In the sense that if someone were to define themselves like, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican. let me try that again. I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. My apologies. If someone was to define themselves like that, right, then it's almost as though they box themselves in. They pretty much do box themselves into having to agree with every single part of that of a political ideology, or every single part of their platform, and having to defend parts of their platform that they may not necessarily like. So I don't necessarily define myself that way. For example, I'm right on some issues and I'm left on some issues. And even then, channels like Second Thought, for example, have talked about how both political parties in the United States are both left-wing parties and both right-wing parties, my apologies, and that essentially true leftism is more of a communism and political compass and so on and so forth. And then outside of that, if someone was to say that they are a traveler and then all of a sudden they decide to settle down somewhere, but if they're saying that they're a traveler or they're a nomad, technically if you're a nomad, you have to continue to keep on traveling in order to continue being a nomad. Otherwise, then you just moved. Right? So with that being said, having that identity and having a particular label can really corner someone. But there's some identities. For example, I'm willing to say that I'm a movie buff as of right now. I'm a superhero fan. I'm a Marvel simp, frankly, a superhero simp. So I don't mind, so, and if that changes, and so be it, like whatever, so, but then there is also pressure in terms of people tend to really try to come after other people, because that change in identity can then be almost them admitting that they were wrong about whatever it is that they identified with. And so then people really like to come after that. And I think that that's really ridiculous. That is a species-wide criticism. Is it normal? Probably, sure. But I think that that is absolutely abysmal. But regardless, it be what it be. It's the name of the podcast.
Don't make assumptions about people. You have no fucking idea what they've been through. Don't make assumptions about yourself either. The last person we're objective about is ourselves.
So why do I start things and never finish them?
And
So would
here
you
we go. But this is almost done, so now with that, don't make assumptions. I think that that's difficult to do. Certainly there's a lot there to try to make it relatively concise, because I don't want this video to be too long, that, more than an hour. Different people are in different chapters in their life. I'm in my 30s right now, so arguably don't judge me based off the chapter don't judge my history based off the chapter that you walked into, for example, and that there's a lot of ways that I could change in the future. And I have changed. I would not say that I'm the same person that I was when I was in my teens, and then even then in my 20s. In some cases, yes, in some cases, no. Right? So there's definitely been a lot of changes that I've gone through, and that goes down back to whether or not people can or cannot change, which is a whole other factor. I've talked about that in some of my previous videos, some of the shorts as well. Other than that, making assumptions about other people, I do think it's necessary, though, to make assumptions about other people and to have some level of judgment, to have some level of discernment, essentially. To have a level of discernment, I think that that's absolutely necessary, you know? And that is because someone else can really hurt you. Someone else can really mess you. I do think give people a chance, give people a second chance, maybe even a third. But then to an extent, if there is a particular pattern, and especially a pattern that is either due to a lack of awareness, which I think is really easy to say, or even due to a lack of caring, such as someone who's really compulsively lying, someone who's really an externalist or what have you, so on and so forth. So that what I'm just saying is that then who has to say that they're not going to lie to you? Someone who is revealing other people's dirty laundry and talking about someone else's business was to say that they're not going to talk about your business, you know? So that's also what I believe to be important as well.
No one thinks about you as much as you think about yourself. Whatever you are insecure about, chances are 99% of people around you haven't even noticed it. This is because everybody else is too busy thinking about themselves. This may strike you as a little bit depressing, but it's actually liberating. It means that you are judged far less than you think. Number 26.
So just on that, I do think that people are paying a lot more attention than what it is that he alludes to. I do disagree with that. I do think that people are very busy, like paying attention to themselves, and arguably like no one cares. And then it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty depressing. No one cares. But then at the same time, it's liberating because then there's a certain sense of freedom. There's a certain sense of don't worry about the judgment of others. But I do think that there is a sufficient amount of paying attention for sure. And that can change depending on the where people place the value of one's attractiveness. And I say that because I don't believe in objective attractiveness. But if someone is a popular or consensus pick, then they may be looked at more often. For example, some people stand out more often than others, so on and so forth. So I do think that there is a significant amount of judgment that is happening. So on that, I don't agree with him in terms of the extent to which people don't actually care about what it is that you're doing. But nonetheless.
Confidence does not come from an expectation of success. It comes from a comfort with failure. There's a word for someone who feels a need to succeed at everything: a fucking narcissist.
Number 27.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair. And yeah, if someone is comfortable with failure, comfortable with the unknown, then that can allow them to be a lot more capable of being confident because they don't necessarily care if they fail. I do think that there is such a thing as the recklessness, though. It's as if someone doesn't take any risks, then they're not really going to push their boundaries, but that and really tap into what it is that into their potential. But then at the same time, if someone becomes way too careless about their reputation and about their perception and about the risks that they are taking, then that can really have a bad impact on their reputation. They can go too far on the other extreme.
Develop a willingness to be disliked. It will grant you the freedom to do what needs to be done, even if it's unpopular. Number 28.
So even that, yes, I do agree with that. But then at the same time, it goes back down to reputation. Reputation will kill you. It really will. It really will. Receiving social consequences and receiving social sanctions from other people means that we're not going to hire you from this job. We're not going to let you into this restaurant. Literally, I'm wearing a mask because I don't necessarily mind being disliked intellectually. It just goes back down to the social consequences of it, which is where I say I wear the mask so that I don't end up homeless in jail or terminated. So social consequences and just social warfare. There certainly still is an aggression. We are in this civil society, but what will end someone, terminate someone, remove them from this earth, eliminate someone, delete someone, right? What will do that to someone is not necessarily warfare, even though we still do have war, but it is also reputation, the way that other people think about that individual. And then they look at the individual as such condemnation and such disgust and, oh, this person's evil and stay away from this person. If you hang out with that person, we won't hang out with you. Also, and then just being isolated from society and becoming a societal pariah. So I think that there's a limit on that one for sure.
You cannot be a life-changing presence to some people without also being a complete fucking joke to others. Part of the price of having impact is some hate, and usually that hate is proportional to the impact.
Number 29.
Yeah. I definitely do agree with that. That one person can be a life-changing force, but then one can be a life-changing force to some people, but then to other people, they're a complete joke. Absolutely. There's some of the positions that I have can be considered a life-changing force to some and is a complete joke to others. So I'm hoping to do this to try to also find the people that resonate with my message. So I totally agree. But now I'm less than halfway through the life lessons, and I'm already about halfway through the length of my last video, so I'm going to try to speed up.
9, floss and wear sunscreen every day. Look, I know I sound like your mom right now, but trust me, in 20 years, you're going to be thanking me.
Number 30, extraordinary results come.
So yeah. The skincare routine and floss, absolutely. And so next up, basically about consistency, essentially, and building the Colosseum one step at a time. He likes to use Thomas Edison and the light bulb, and that it was about a bunch of seeing what didn't work to eventually see what did work.
From repeating ordinary actions over an unordinary amount of time. Any overnight success is secretly the result of quietly working in obscurity for years, if not decades.
Number 31, choosing.
Yeah. And so there's certainly the try to do a bunch of work, and then maybe nothing happened. Work, again, maybe nothing happened. Work, overnight success. And then so I'm definitely hoping to continue to be working, keeping up with the YouTube channel and creating the content. And then at one point, one of the videos goes viral. Apparently, Mr. Beast went viral on his 400-something video. Some people have been at it for 2 years, 1,000 subscribers. Some people have been at it for 15 years, didn't even crack 10K. For example, some people have been at it for 1 year, 100,000. So I'm hoping so. I really am hoping so. But in any case,
a partner is not about
Tesla is finished. Elon has failed. That is what they want you to believe. But tech expert Jeff Brown, who told
romance, you're also choosing a confidant, a counselor, career advisor, therapist, investor, teacher, travel buddy, roommate, best friend, business partner. And no, I'm not saying you should make your partner be all these things. I'm saying whether you want to or not, your partner is going to become all of these things. That's what a relationship is. So choose fucking wisely.
Number 32, travel your all years, if not decades.
I totally agree with that one. I think that that's exceptionally well said, to the extent that I'm just going to actually let him run it back and just let him cook on that one. And just one part I will add to that is that I just really hate it, particularly for men. Oh, that she just has to be hot. My single criteria is about just finding the hottest girl that I can find and essentially trying to get a consensus pick as someone who has value, not necessarily quality. I am for personality over looks for someone that I would be putting in that position, that I'd be selecting for that position. Otherwise, other than that, I am not opposed to casual intimacy. So there's just that too. There's an alternative, which I appreciate, but that's its own topic.
Number 31, choosing a partner is not about romance. You're also choosing a confidant, a counselor, career advisor, therapist, investor, teacher, travel buddy, roommate, best friend, business partner. And no, I'm not saying you should make your partner be all these things. I'm saying whether you want to or not, your partner is going to become all of these things. That's what a relationship is. So choose fucking wisely.
Number 32.
Yeah, and so there it is. I just think that I definitely think that he even mentioned it in the Solved podcast on emotions that a lot of the reproduction is, or was it Chris Williamson? I think it was Chris Williamson, actually. A lot of his most recent Chris Williamson episode, a lot of the reproduction is optimized for reproducing and not necessarily about being happy per se. I definitely think that there's a lot of issues with the way that people date. I frankly, again, courage to be disliked. I think that people date very stupidly and have a lot of very stupid criteria. I think that really contributes to why a majority of most relationships fail, and that a majority of of marriages either end up in divorce, well, half of them do, and then the other half are not necessarily all happy, right? So how many people stay together for the kids? How many people stay together because it's cheaper to keep or what have you? So on, so forth, etc. What have you.
2, don't overestimate romantic love. Love doesn't fix relationship problems. It doesn't make trust issues go away. The truth is, love can harm as much as it heals. It's an amplifier. It makes a good relationship better and a bad relationship much worse. Don't get me wrong, love is great. I mean, love is beautiful when it works right. But for a healthy relationship, by itself, love is not enough.
Number 33.
I think that that's very fair as well. And yeah, just in that regard, like that love is an amplifier. I really like that too. So I think that is very apropos.
Trust is the currency of all relationships. Every good relationship is built off back. I have something in my teeth. Every good relationship is built off the back of years of trust. Every failed relationship fails because of broken trust. Therefore, honesty and integrity are the backbones of a life of healthy relationships and therefore happiness. Dishonesty and a lack of integrity might be a shortcut to some short-term gains, but you're completely fucking yourself in the long run. So fucking stop it. Number 34, speak.
I totally agree with that. I do think that in general, dishonesty is very stupid. I really do, but a lot of short-term gain, but certainly messing up in the long run. Absolutely. I do think that dishonesty is extremely ridiculous. And how many lies that someone may have to remember, for example, among other factors. Yeah, I think that that's really insane, but it is what it is. I don't think that people have that long-term thinking, generally speaking. That's normal, and yet it be what it be.
Speaking of which, if all of your relationships have the same problem, then newsflash, you're the fucking problem. Number 35,
I would be willing to agree with that to an extent. Like if someone is really running into the same problem over and over and over again in the different people, and when I would say interpersonal interaction in the different jobs, I mean, family is not really replaceable with different friends or different significant others. If someone is running into the same issue, I would at the very least say this, instead of going as far as to say that the individual is the so-called problem, it's worth examining why one gets into those situations over and over and over again. I'd certainly say that it's very worth examining that. So that being said,
there's no such thing as a bad emotion, only a bad response to an emotion. Every emotion can be used constructively or destructively. One of the most useful things you can ever learn in your life is to figure out how to channel your negative emotions constructively. Number 36,
yeah, so I think that that's very interesting too. So I totally agree that there's no such thing as a bad emotion, but there can be a negative emotion. It's like, okay, I'm mad, but then the emotions are feedback. I can use that to see how I feel about a particular situation that I ran into. I also don't think that just trust your feelings and just operate through your life like that is sufficient enough. Maybe for someone who is younger or particularly young and inexperienced and doesn't really know what it is that they do or don't like. But it's almost as if those emotions, it's as if with someone's young, then their preferences and their likes and what is it they like and they don't like. It's like having a map, but there's the fog of war in like a video game, for example. It's like having a map, there's a fog of war. And then as someone experiences life, then they're able to recognize, oh, I don't like this, or I do like this, and so on and so forth. And I think that there's merit to figuring out what it is that you do like and who you are, what your preferences are, figuring out what it is that you don't like as well. I think that that's very important to do as well. What it is that one would want to stay away from, what it is you want to stay away from. So absolutely. I feel bad because I feel bad, right? I'm feeling bad about feeling bad. That can just make it worse. And feeling good about feeling good, that can add too much pride. I know that Mark Manson talked about that on this Chris Williamson episode as well. So yeah, a bad response to an emotion. But yeah, the emotions are feedback. Use that as your compass to navigate through your life. And then also regulating the emotion as well. It certainly is possible. There's this argument to be made that there is a certain biological disposition that we already have, which predetermines the extent to which we can regulate our emotions. But I also do think that it is not completely out of our control. So that being said.
My whole life, I always promised myself I would never be that guy who went to bed at 9 p.m. on a Friday, and I would never be that guy who got up at 5 a.m. to hit the fucking gym and get after it. But kids, I hate to tell you, mornings are the real shit. Number 37.
So he even made a video about waking up at going to sleep at 9, waking up at 5:30 a.m. or 6, and that he just can't wait to just get out of bed, take some caffeine, and then to get on his computer because he's so excited about what it is that he does. He doesn't even brush his teeth. He doesn't even put clothes on. According to what he's saying, within what was it? The time frame, not 100 seconds. Something about 100, yeah, within 100 seconds, like a minute and a half. So I doubt that he's putting clothes on or brushing his teeth like that. So with that being said, good for him. He's definitely created quite the life for himself, as I have revered in my last video on him. But that being said, yeah, waking up earlier. And even Ryan Holiday would say in the Stoics that waking up early is also necessary. That apparently a number of different people woke up very early throughout history that were particularly successful. But at the same time, he would also say, Mark Manson's also said, is it worth it to wake up early? Depends on where you are. Maybe one does want to go and party and stay up. So that also goes back to the identity as well. He changed, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's objectively growth. In a way, yes, but nonetheless, yeah, because he stopped drinking. So there's that too.
You don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. Let me say that again for the people in the back. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. Number 38.
I think that that's pretty fair. I think that that's pretty self-explanatory. I think to an extent we do need to prove to other people, though. And I like that Orion Teraband's take on it of see these tests as an opportunity to show what it is that you can do. Use these tests as a challenge to be like, this is your chance to demonstrate your competence or your capability. So we do, there's other people who have power over us who make these decisions about what it is that we are to be. They make these decisions about our ability to get a promotion, to get hired, so on and so forth. So we do have to prove ourselves to other people, significant other, so on and so forth. So in a way, yes, in a way, no. And like I said, intellectually, it doesn't matter, but by quality of life, it does.
Life advice is like clothing.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
You know,
A complete
Try it on, and if it's including yourself.
you know, it be what it be. It be what it be. I'm trying here. I'm trying here.
Number 38, life advice is like clothing. Try it on, and if it doesn't fit, discard it. Try something else. And like clothing, bad advice will be useless within a few weeks, but good advice, it will last you a lifetime.
Number 39,
I really like that as well. Bad advice will be useless in the short term, and that'll be exposed in the short term, but good advice will actually really last you a lifetime. I really, really like that. And if you don't like it, try something else. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I agree 100%.
nothing meaningful in life is easy, and nothing easy in life is meaningful. We think we'd like to have everything handed to us on a silver platter, but the truth is that we don't appreciate or enjoy things that we don't struggle for. So stop avoiding the difficult things in your life and instead find the difficult things you enjoy.
Taxes, saving money, fitness, tough conversations, loneliness.
And finally,
and just on that too, right? I do agree, but I also do think that there is such a thing as being a busy idiot, being stupid hard. For example, if someone was to, if I asked someone to dig a hole and they used a spoon instead of a shovel, I'm not going to pay them extra because they worked harder. So there's working hard and there's working smart for sure. But certainly, yeah, there is also that human tendency to just want to take for granted whatever's handed to them on a silver platter. There's also that as well.
number 40, it's never too late to change. A friend of mine once told me a story about his grandmother. He said that when her husband died, she was 62, and for the first time in her life, she began to take piano lessons. For weeks, she practiced all day, every day. At first, the family thought it was just a phase, a way for her to process her grief. But months went by, and she continued to play every day. People started to wonder if she...
So being able to really get amazing results. And yeah, it's never too late. The grandmother and the story, looking at the age, right? The best time, there's two best times to have started. The first best time to have started was in the past. The second best time to start is now.
She was crazy or something was wrong with her. They told her to give it up, face reality. I mean, she was old. By the time she was in her 90s, she had been playing piano every day for over 30 years, longer than most professional musicians have been alive. She had mastered all of the classics, Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Vivaldi. Everyone who heard her play swore that she must have been a concert pianist in her youth. No one believed her when she said that she...
So yeah, I think that that's very interesting, right? She played every day for 30 years. And I don't know if he said the age of the women yet, so...
took her first lesson in her 60s. I love this story because it shows that even at an impractical old age in life, you still have more time left to learn something than most professionals at that thing have even been alive. I didn't start writing until I was 27. I didn't start this YouTube channel until I was 36. In every phase of my life, I've started 5 to 10 years later than most people. Yet, it didn't matter. It's never too late. I get emails all the time from people asking me, hey, I'm 20.
Yeah, interesting. Started writing at 27. At 36, started the YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm in my 30s as well, starting the YouTube channel. So yeah, trying to make it. Ay caramba.
Or 40 or 60 or 80? Is it all the time from people asking me, hey, I'm 20 or 40 or 60 or 80? Is it too late? Can I change? Is there time? The answer is it's never too late. There's always time. The only question is how long we're going to sit here and make excuses and pretend there's not. All right, guys, that was fun. I'll see you when I'm 50.
Yeah, I think that that's very Very, very worthwhile. Yeah,
Why can't I make any changes without an admin?
For sure, 3 million views that happened a year ago. In fact, actually, let's just take a quick look.
Today is my 40th birthday.
And of course, yeah, I'm just going to let that one play out yet again.
All right, guys, that was fun. I'll see you when I'm 50.
March 9th, 2024, so just over a year ago, for sure. So at this point, he is 41. And some of what it is that I wanted to also just do rules for life, Mark Manson. Interesting. I'll open that one up in another tab and I'll take a look at that one later. But yeah, and then there's the Mark Manson, why you never feel good enough, and so on and so forth. Yep. And with that one, that he did do the waking up at 5 a.m. Is waking up at 5 a.m. worth it? He has a Salt podcast. So yeah, dude, definitely a very accomplished person. And the next episode drops August 1st, so be it. Yeah. So that's basically, with that all being said, it's been a live stream. That is the part 2, doing the second half of the life lessons. Keep an eye out for shorts as well that are going to be coming through, but I'm going to be bidding you farewell and adieu. Take care.